5 easy and practical moves to build the perfect Dynasty Fantasy Football roster. What we're seeing are these moves are what typically leads to the most success for Dynasty players, either winning their championship or building a roster that ends up being an elite value roster. And that's, of course, what we're striving for. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe. Just a clarification up front here, because we are still dealing with Bowers trolls or whatever. These are not player takes. Good player, bad player. Not that. These are roster construction tips and roster construction strategy points. And so don't take any of these guys we're mentioning in this video. Some of them are buys or sells, maybe, but that doesn't mean necessarily when we talk about them that they are. So keep that in mind. This is purely roster construction strategy. It has nothing to do with the players themselves in most cases. So we're going to go ahead and put this to the test right now to see if we can do this. Number one. Sell your top-end quarterbacks on non-elite value teams. The caveat on non-elite value teams is because the reason you are selling your top-end quarterbacks, which we have talked about this on this channel for a very long time now, for probably a year, but the reason that it is a smart idea to sell your top-end QBs is because you can get replacement-level production from quarterbacks going in the 4th round and stack your flex spot with the leftover value in the difference between a first-round QB and a 4th-round QB. So most teams that need higher upside flex spots, the move for them is to sell off their top-end QB for a 4th-round QB, or not even that, sell them for an elite wide receiver, elite running back, and then go buy the 4th-round QB separately. When I say a 4th-round QB, I'm talking about guys like Dak Prescott. I'm talking about guys like Daniel Jones. I'm talking about guys like Baker Mayfield, guys who are producing at a quarterback 1 level, but are not being charged at quarterback 1 prices in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Because again, what this allows you to do is take that extra value from those top-end QBs and invest it in your flex spot, because your championships are not won at your flex and super flex. They're won in your flex spots. And what we've seen in Dynasty for really the last couple months and maybe even the last 6 months is there is starting to be a very severe disconnect between the perceived value of those top-end quarterbacks and what you're actually getting for them. Some of you in the comments can probably attest to this. Selling a top-end quarterback is like pulling fingernails. It's the worst. You sometimes cannot do it. A lot of times it's impossible to sell a top-end quarterback because with the value that you're drafting them at, you're never actually getting that value back in trades. And that's an issue. It's a big issue because what it basically does is it pigeonholes us into having these top-end quarterbacks, and it doesn't allow us to get our higher upside flex guys. And then the team with the higher upside flex guys, who was at the end of the 1st round in a startup and got receiver, ends up winning because they have quarterbacks from the 5th, 6th round that are producing, and then they have the flex spots are much higher upside than you. That's what's happening. These quarterbacks are not going for what their perceived value is. And
why is that the case? The reason is because you have way more high-level, high-upside productive assets in fantasy football across the board than really we've ever seen. The reason that those guys were valued at such a high level, Lamar, Josh Allen, for so long, is because not only was their value so insulated, but their production was at such an elite level, so much higher than the rest of the field, that it didn't make sense not to invest in them if you had the opportunity to, and you never wanted to sell them off if you did own them. But now that drop-off has essentially smoothed out. It's essentially become less dramatic because, like Avery was saying, number one, the replacement level production that you're getting from these guys at quarterback that are cheaper is not as dramatic of a fall-off as it has been in the past. And number two, the number of elite level, high production upside wide receivers and running backs that are ranked in the top 3 to 4 rounds of Dynasty Fantasy Football is at the highest that we've probably ever seen as well, because you're seeing the most production from offenses across the board in the NFL.
And again, I think a part of it from a strategy standpoint, a dynasty theory standpoint, is people are realizing the importance of your flex spots, and so those flex spot position guys are just being ticked up in. And so what, to quantify what Nathan just said, and where I was kind of going with this, because he's right. The curve is being smoothed, so to say. Whereas you had, I try to make this backwards, but you had the quarterback curve, the value curve from the first into the first, or the beginning of the first to the end of the first, kind of go very steeply down and then smooth out as you go. Now you're actually seeing that not stoop down as much. Yeah. I think, and this is the new domain theory. So this is a theory. It's what's the scientific term for it? It's a hypothesis, but what's the one after a hypothesis before it becomes a
scientific law?
Yes, a scientific law.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. Okay, so I'm using the right terminology. It's been a while. This is a theory. The theory is that the guys that are valued at the end of the first round, those elite wide receivers and running backs, are fetching the exact same price as a quarterback at the beginning of the first. And when you're talking about positions, so since there's no no difference in their value, and you're talking about positional scarcity, and you're talking about the impact of when you're in a 2 or 3 flex league, those running backs and wide receivers should be valued the same as those top-end quarterbacks. The problem is it's much more easy to move a top-end wide receiver running back in Dynasty than it is a quarterback. And so what's the takeaway here? What can you do? You can sell away your top-end quarterbacks, and you can down tier to those productive quarterbacks plus an elite receiver and elite running back. So you're actually not down tiering from Josh Allen to Baker Mayfield. You're actually down tiering from Josh Allen to
insert JSN.
Right? Yeah. So somebody like that, even a running back maybe. But you're getting those productive quarterbacks either in that trade or in another trade. And so the guys we're talking about here are the guys who are typically going in the top 6 of Dynasty startup drafts. The only quarterbacks that actually go there are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and yes, Drake May. If you have Drake May, congratulations, because, of course, Drake May is my quarterback one in Dynasty, by the way. Drake May is a great asset to own, but I'm just saying, with Drake May, I mean, and with all, he's just part of this group where, from a roster construction standpoint, it is so hard to sell these guys once they reach their value status. Drake May cannot go up in value anymore. It doesn't mean he's a sell because he's reached his value peak, because you don't just sell players when they reach their value peak. That's a stupid idea. But again, if you can still maximize your flex spot upside, it's probably a smart idea to do that. We're not telling you have to, but we're just telling you it's smart to do that, telling you what we do. So just keep that in mind. And again, the caveat here is if you're an elite value team and you have a team that is already as upside heavy as possible in the flex spots, don't sell these guys. There's no point on an elite value or high-end, well-rounded team to sell these guys off of your team. And so, again, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to move these guys for what they're actually worth. But if you can get higher upside flex guys, invest in the wide receiver and running back position in Dynasty, and get a haul for these guys, it's worth shopping them. Do not this is huge. Do not undersell them. Do not take an underpay for them, because then you're losing value, and losing value is the last thing we want to do in Dynasty. So don't do that, but invest in the sweet spot QBs, like I mentioned, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, who are some of the other guys that are extremely productive this year. Like even Sam Darnold's a great investment as a quarterback too this year.
Yeah, he is.
So invest in the sweet spot QBs and sell off your top end assets to invest in your flex positions, because it will ultimately give you a better shot at winning your championship. Move number 2.
Yeah, so this second move is going to be centered primarily around wide receivers. Everybody knows who has watched our channel for a while that for reloads and rebuilds specifically, we always tell you guys top priority here is to basically acquire value upside at the wide receiver position. And this really is going to be a beneficial move for anyone, whether you're contending or rebuilding, reloading, because some of these guys are so insulated and they still have value upside to a point where, like, hey, some of these guys are immediately productive right now. Insert Lab McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Rome Odunze. But those are the types of insulated wide receivers with value upside that we're talking about, right? Not necessarily the cheapest guys that you're just taking a flyer on, but not the most expensive guys that have already arrived, right? JSN was a value upside guy that we wanted you guys to target this past offseason, and that's already paid off, and now that buy window has essentially closed. But guys like Brian Thomas Jr., now where he was kind of closer or approaching what his value ceiling was heading into 2025, he's now dropped down quite a bit, but not too much where we're like, oh, this makes us really worried about what his value outlook could be for the next couple of years, because as bad as Brian Thomas Jr. has been this season, there still is quite a bit of insulation baked into his price, or insert benefit of the doubt, to a point where he can only fall so far. Basically what's happened with BTJ is we were making the argument that BTJ was kind of the start of this really big tier of wide receivers, hence why we said, hey, down tier from BTJ to JSN plus in the offseason. Is realistically long-term, we didn't see a value upside outlook for BTJ at late first round prices that were much higher than what JSN was capable of achieving. And now look where we are. Now with BTJ, the best thing about this is now he's essentially just gone down to the very bottom of that tier. He hasn't really fallen a tier. Some could argue that he's fallen a tier. If you viewed him in the same tier at the same level as like CeeDee Lamb or Puka Nacua or Jefferson or something like that, then yeah, he's dropped down a tier. But again, he's not really ever going to get to a point in the near future, just because of what he did as a rookie and the upside that he showcased that season, where he's going to be valued in the same range as the guys a tier below where he's currently being ranked, which are like the Zay Flowers, the Chris Olaves, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle types. That's just not going to happen with BTJ and the caliber of wide receiver that he is. Same thing kind of applies to Marvin Harrison Jr. at the moment, right? He's a wide receiver 1 in a really bad offense where Kyler was just essentially benched for the rest of the season. You may have seen Kyler for the last time as an Arizona Cardinal earlier this season before he went down with that injury, and that honestly couldn't be better for Marv. Literally, I mean, Jacoby Brissett we prefer for Marv over Kyler at this point. And with Marv, again, this is one where we were wrong about this type of take, right? If we said to down tier to Marv or pivot to a guy like Marvin Harrison heading into 2025, that didn't pay off immediately, where he didn't shoot up boards immediately. What happened with Marv when he produced or has been producing at pretty much the same level that he did last year? He's dropped down to the bottom of the tier that he was already in, and he can't really fall any lower and probably won't for the next year or two because of situation, because of benefit of the doubt, because of draft capital, etc. Right? These are insulated wide receivers that have a lot more room to move up. Travis Hunter, same sort of thing, right? You saw him. Actually, there's a difference between Travis Hunter and everybody else here is because of how questionable the situation was as a whole with him being paired with BTJ and you not really knowing if he was going to play on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball. You have seen Hunter kind of transition to a point where he's going to be pretty much majority exclusive wide receiver with some defensive snaps. That's what they started indicating before he went on IR. But before that, he fell down super far. People got a little worried. But once they saw that his workload was going back up, I mean, he immediately shot right back up and was getting real close back to where Ladd was being priced currently. And that's what you're going to see with Travis Hunter. Even with the injury, once he's back, whether it's at the end of this season or it's the beginning of next year, it doesn't matter. All reports are going to come out, oh, we've got to get Hunter implemented more. We've got to get him utilized more. Again, this is a second overall pick where he's going to have so much he's going to have so much leeway and so much room for error in Dynasty just because of his name, and that is Travis Hunter. Ladd McConkey, another great investment right now. The only reason we didn't like him is because he was ranked at the top of that big tier wide receivers. We said that's his value ceiling. Looking like we were right. He's fallen down to the bottom of that tier, and he's honestly producing at the same level that he did last season, which is still a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2, and he's with Justin Herbert for probably the majority of his career, we would assume, and that's a great outlook for him long term. Garrett Wilson, pretty much the last man standing there in New York after they traded away their whole team, but Garrett Wilson with the massive extension and only up from here. Again, can you imagine Ty Simpson or Fernando Mendoza passing the ball to Garrett Wilson, if not a better quarterback and a better class in 2027? Regardless, it's a win-win either way for Garrett Wilson long term. Rome Odunze, you saw in his first 4 weeks of the season how well he did and how quickly he shot up boards up into the mid-second round. And now he's kind of dipped down a little bit more, but he's going to kind of just stay in that range for the foreseeable future. DJ Moore has taken a big step down. Luther Burden and Colson Loveland seem to be role players there, but Rome Odunze is the number 1 guy. And then Ted McMillan. I mean, Ted McMillan has been doing exactly what we thought he could do in a situation that honestly hasn't been the friendliest for him this season because they've tried to establish the run and slow down games with Rico Dowdle, and he still is like a mid to high on wide receiver 2 at the moment.
Yeah, 2 guys I'll highlight there that I am just buying the frick out of, and I will die on the Marv Hill. I will die. I know we said to buy him, and he's dipped in value a little bit. Do not sell him. Hold him. He is a buy in Dynasty, and if you have him, he's still a hold. I promise we are early. We are not wrong on Marv. Marv is going to hit. If he doesn't, I'll die on the hill and I'll just be wrong with him. I'm fine being wrong about Marv, but I just don't think it's there yet. I like him. And Ted McMillan, like Nathan just said, I mean, my gosh, he looks great. He looks so fantastic. And the production will come, and so I'm very confident in that.
The production is already there to an extent. It's, again, we've just been spoiled with elite top 6 production from some of these first-round picks over the last couple of years that it's like, oh, if he's not top 6, I guess he'll just maintain.
Yeah. All right. So if you want us to take a look at your roster and tell you which of these 5 moves, these are 5 of the most common moves we give to people. We can tell you for your roster which combination of these moves works for you and give you your combination on your team blueprint. You get a free team blueprint with the annual Mother Flocker tier with code DOMAIN. Basically means you come, join the site, get all the Dynasty tools you need for this year, get our Discord, come join the community, get a free team review from Nathan and I, and you're going to get infinite blueprint with that. So you're going to get a new team review every week during the season, every month during the offseason. You'll have the bakery, which is available on the site. You're going to have our rookie draft guide when it comes out. If you play Dynasty, it's basically the number 1 tool to play Dynasty, win your leagues, and have fun doing it. And so come join the community. Nathan and I can take a look at your team. We can tell you exactly which moves you should be making at flockfantasy.com/domain. I've got the link in the pinned comment. And that's the annual Mother Flocker tier. We would love to have you guys join the community. We've got a great community of a ton of passionate Dynasty players over there. Number 3, invest in running backs that have average to above average 2-year outlooks. And right now, this still means like end of this year and next year. And I'm totally fine with that. Because here's the thing. Think about it this way. If you're a contending team and you buy in on running backs that have, above average juice, let's say you buy in on a bad running back. Let's say you buy in on, I don't want to use any of the free agents, Jaylen Warren, for example. The good news is if you have Jaylen Warren and you end up contending, he becomes a flex level guy for you at flex level prices in Dynasty. And if you don't end up contending, what's happened with running backs is it's essentially the gold rush with running backs right now. It's essentially everybody is trying to get those running backs because there is a shortage of consistently productive running backs, especially in 12-team leagues. You cannot get enough of these guys on your team because ideally you want to flex these guys. A big league winner this year in Dynasty is going to be the guys who are flexing Javonte Williams because he is averaging 18 points per game in your flex spot and the consistency that he's going to offer for you in the playoffs. It is the gold rush for running backs right now. And so if you buy them as a contending team and they, end up being good next year, you struck gold, literally. If you are a rebuilding team, the demand for these running backs in season is so high. There's literally almost no risk now to buying these running backs because they could go for such a high price in season. You can sell them for whatever. You'll get a bidding war on your hands.
Yeah, and that's changed dramatically over the last couple of years because I remember when we started this channel, something that people were starting to catch up on was, hey, if you're rebuilding or reloading, there's no way that you want to be holding on to these non-rookie running backs because the negative volatility was so dramatic between injuries, situational outlooks just looking worse and worse, running backs not getting paid, things like that. And now you've kind of seen the trend kind of change and shift to a point where you're looking at a lot more positive volatility outlooks for some of these running backs that seem washed up or seem like journeymen. And Rico Dowdle just runs into the right situation and he takes it and runs with it, literally. And he's producing at a super high level and is a short-term productive guy and someone that if you just held on your roster with the hopes that maybe he ends up producing, same with Jaylen Warren, same with Javonte Williams, then it's like, okay, yeah, that worked out really well. Travis Etienne as well. This is something that I think we're going to want to adjust to this offseason where, hey, if you're a rebuild or a reload, we're not going to tell you that you can only invest in rookie running backs alone because there's too much insulation, honestly, that's being offered to these running backs with some of the extensions that they're getting. And obviously injury is always going to, factor into this. You're going to have guys fall due to injury. That's just a reality, but it's happening to wide receivers as well. It's happening to everyone right now. And it's not just exclusive to running backs. It's applied across the board. Daniels is going to lose some value because of his injury. You saw Bowers, actually he didn't lose any value. That's a bad example. BTJ lost value because he's been banged up. Travis Hunter, all over the place. There are plenty of guys at other positions that are losing as much value and fluctuating just as much as running backs. And right now, your most productive league-winning guys are running backs at the moment, and you're seeing more insulation than we've ever seen in a while because they're getting paid.
Yeah, and again, this is just changed from a dynasty mindset. Basically, whether somebody's a good investment or not in dynasty is fully dependent on people's perceived values of players. It's basically what you all think of players when you go to value them. Yeah. And what we used to think when we first started doing this, like Nathan thought, there was such an emphasis on buying young players and not having old players and the age cliff and things like that, that we completely shot away from these old productive running backs. But we've shifted as a dynasty community, and we've shifted for the better because now we are taking production and we are valuing that more. Production is much more valuable in Dynasty than it was even 2 years ago because people are realizing that's how you win championships in Dynasty, just like it's how you win championships in fantasy football. And so because of that mindset shift from a valuation standpoint, these old running backs now hold their value better than they used to, and it makes them good investments for a lot of teams. And so guys here, well, first of all, the free agents. I'll say this as well, baby point under this point. Anytime you can buy a free agent running back, like a true free agent running back that has upside, you do it in season, in the middle of the season right now before people realize they're going to be a free agent. Two guys here, Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Crazy buys or holds right now in Dynasty.
I mean, the prices that Breece Hall is going for right now
it's
are
cheap. And Kenneth Walker is the same.
Cheap.
And I don't believe in Kenneth Walker. I don't know about Breece, but I don't like Kenneth Walker, and I never have. But His value is going up if he signs somewhere else and when he signs somewhere else. His value will go up if he re-signs with the Seahawks, truthfully.
If you don't believe us, then just look at what his value has been and maintained, admittedly, for the last few years, despite him never sniffing running back one numbers.
He has the longest leash of one of any players.
The longest leash by far.
But once these guys, you buy them in season before people realize, oh, they're going to go way up in value when they get signed. The hype there's going to be a 2-week period in when's free agency? March?
It starts in March, yeah.
In March, there's going to be a 2-week period where all we talk about is Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Mark my words and buy them now. Jalen Warren, a good example. He's now on a deal where he could be there and be the starting running back for the next 2 years. I'm fine investing in him. Javonte Williams, of course. I think he's going to get a long-term play there. I would definitely do that. James Cook is a guy that, we've said we think he's a little bit undervalued in Dynasty. But all those guys have average to above average. And, above average for James Cook and average for Jalen Warren. 2-year outlooks. And so you can invest in those guys on any type of team. If you're a reload and you can potentially get one of these guys, if you're going for it next year and these guys are for sale,
you hold Walker and you invest in Breece.
Why not invest in some of these guys? If you're planning on contending next year, why not buy them now from teams who are rebuilding that are blowing it up? Sure, you might get in a bidding war. This will take more of an effect when we get into the offseason. In January, I'm buying every single running back I can. I will have all of them on my team. Because, again, I don't have to worry about them plummeting in value now. It's not going to happen. And this year's running back class is not good. So all of these running backs that, we're talking about, hey, they might have a starting job this year, next year, they're going to. Jeremiah Love's going to take somebody's job. Sure. After that,
Coleman might. Yeah.
Those guys are wild cards. And so the running backs this year are going to have so much insulation, we're going to buy the frick out of them. So invest in running backs that have average to above average 2-year outlooks on your team.
Then our fourth one is going to be buying injured cornerstone assets. Again, this is going to be very rebuild and reload centric, this roster construction point. Look, this is essentially a double-edged sword for you people that are investing in these players, because not only are you getting a super insulated cornerstone, but you're also offloading production on your team for basically free without costing any sort of value loss, any sort of risk of value dips, because Malik Neighbors is going to maintain Malik Neighbors prices. He has maintained Malik Neighbors prices. What Neighbors was priced at before the ACL is essentially what he's being priced at right now. He just can't lose value, and he shouldn't lose value. So he's honestly been one of the number one targets for our rebuilds and reloads. He's been one of the number one offloads for our contenders, because, again, you can move Malik Neighbors, pivot to a value equivalent wide receiver where he was already being priced around to start the season at no additional cost. This is such a mutually beneficial move that if I could make every rebuild and contending team in every dynasty league do it together, I would. I would literally force them to do it, because it makes no sense to not do it for both sides. Why would you turn down production when you're just wasting the value that Neighbors has on your team as a contender, when you can get 18 plus points per game at the wide receiver position in exchange for him? And as a rebuild, you're trying to, a lot of you guys are trying to offload production. What ends up happening, and a mistake that a lot of people make, is they offload production at a discount to a point where they're just killing their team for the 101. And that's a mistake that we've talked about at length many off seasons. This is one of the few opportunities that you can offload production without killing your team, and it's just a phenomenal move. It's an absolutely phenomenal move. It's Malik Neighbors. Omarion Hampton has been on IR. There's just the announcement that came out that he's not going to be back until at the earliest the game when they're coming off of the bye in week 13. And sounded like Jim Harbaugh was being optimistic with that timetable. So we'll see what happens there. But if you're a contending team that owns Omarion Hampton, or and again, you've got a rebuild or a reload that should be interested in targeting a guy like Hampton, again, rebuilds, reloads, go invest in Omarion Hampton. We don't think his long-term insulation is any worse than Ashton Genty, and his situation is much, much better. He's just as talented as Genty is. Cam Scattaboo is another guy, insert quote-unquote cornerstone asset. He was starting to sneak into like the fourth round of Dynasty startup ADP when he was, producing at the level that he was before his ankle exploded. And from all reports that we've heard about this injury, the recovery timetable should be totally fine. They said it should be pretty pretty easy to recover from. It could have been a lot worse, essentially. And that's a good sign for him. But again, if you want to get a guy that's going to be the #1 running back for the Giants next season, Tyron Tracy will still be there. It doesn't matter. Tyron Tracy isn't going to eat into his work. And then I just insert Bucky Irving in here as well. Bucky Irving's not a guy that's going to be out for the rest of the season. In fact, he's going to be back, but this is just an example over like the last month. Hey, over the past month, did you, as a reload who was playing the market during the season, get Bucky Irving at a discount to sell him high when he was back producing, right? Those are the types of moves that you want to make. And Bucky Irving, one of the better offensive situations in the NFL, is pretty insulated for the next couple of years.
And then finally, if you've made it to the end of this video, you're going to get some 2026 pick advice, which we haven't really given out a lot of since we've kind of learned what this class is going to be. Try to acquire, this is the point, try to acquire 26 early first at a discount. This goes for reloading teams, rebuilding teams, contending teams, because what we're seeing right now, I mean, we've seen this across the board for 26 picks since they've entered the database for value. These 26 picks are still less valuable than 27s, and they are still being undervalued compared to where they normally go. Now, for mid and late first, I totally get it because we'll talk about that here in a minute. But early first, I just wanted to put, I mean, a 27 early first is valued a round higher than 26 early first right now. And I get that that's going to be Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams. I get it. But I think you guys are underestimating where Jeremiah Love is going to go in startups. Sure, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, they might be in 27. First-round startup picks as soon as they come in the league. They're going to be at the turn. You know who else is going to be right at the turn? Jeremiah Love. I promise you he will be because he's the exact same level of prospect as Ginty, and that's where Ginty went. So you're getting a significant discount on a 26 early first right now. Also, Jordan Tyson. Might I add, Jordan Tyson's very good. Not to mention, you've got Mekhi Lemon, who I think is going to be extremely fantasy productive there. And you've got Carnell Tate. I think Carnell Tate has a ton of fantasy upside. The top end of this class is not the problem. When you compare the top end of the 26 class to the 25 class, for example, it stacks up. It's literally 25. It's Love, Ginty, Tyson, a couple guys from 25, Lemon. You've got Tate in there, Denzel Boston potentially. There's a lot of value upside with this class.
There's a lot more wide receivers in this class than last year, too.
But even just Love and Tyson, getting that one, even the 101 through 103, if you can get one of those picks at a discount at all, because somebody's like, yeah, it's an early first, I'm doing it.
Yep.
I'm absolutely doing it. I mean, you've got a 26 early first valued next to Jordan Love, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Brian Thomas. Like, I mean, so again, this might not be applicable in all of your leagues. But for this year, early firsts are a general buy, and if you should go check on the prices, especially if you're a rebuild reload. You should go check on the prices of those first. I'm fine consolidating into those picks because they are going to go up in value. I think those players go up in value, and so I think it's going to set you up for success next year. And I will say this about mid-late first. I'm fine buying those as well with this caveat. This year, my guess is what we're going to end up recommending for 26 mid to late first, depending on where the first is. I think we're going to end up moving off of those come draft time. Now, maybe easier said than done, but you can't sell them now. They're still technically buys because they're so undervalued. They're valued next seconds sometimes. But this year just generally
depends on what those tiers look like, because if the tier kind of bleeds into the early second, if you see like a little bit of depth there, then that might be like a down tier recommendation. Or let's say that you're just seeing that pick having increased so much that it's to a point where you'd rather just take a proven veteran, wide receiver, running back, or something like that, then you go ahead and just do that too.
So, I mean, again, the point to say mid-late first, we don't like as much that range, but the early first are fine, and they're still being undervalued because all firsts across the board are being undervalued, and you can take a value in there by acquiring early first at a discount. So, those are, again, 5 moves. Roster construction moves, not so much player takes. There were player takes baked in there by the free agent running backs, right? But we like Marvin Tett. I don't have any problem with any of the top-end quarterbacks outside of the fact that from a roster construction strategy standpoint, it makes sense to move them for a quarterback plus. Not player takes, but roster construction tips, and hopefully that helps. These are 5 of the most important things that we're recommending for Dynasty teams right now. Again, we can take a look at your team. I've got the link pinned below. If you come join the community, we'll give you a free blueprint. You can unlock that. Nathan and I look at all these teams personally. But again, before you leave, drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. We're trying to bring you the most relevant and most helpful Dynasty content we can right now. We're gonna have Dynasty content. Literally, we literally don't ever stop. We don't ever take weeks off from Dynasty content, and I hope you guys appreciate that because it is very important to us that we put out videos on this channel. This is our #1 channel easily to us. So we love you all. Please make sure you subscribe. We appreciate you. We'll see you what day we're releasing this video, Thursday. We'll see you tonight with a live stream. Peace out.